This is 7 News at noon.
First at noon, it is looking nice out there on your Wednesday afternoon, but that is about to change. A live look outside, and you see the clouds starting to build. We are also tracking some winter weather that will be headed in our direction.
It all starts moving in overnight. So for a closer look at the timing, let's go to our meteorologist, Josh Worster.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it's overnight that this gets going. So your commute home tonight is A-OK, and even your evening plans tonight are going to be okay. It's after the midnight time frame when we start to notice the changes on the way with that system that's in for not only Thursday, but Friday as well. Notice temperature is cooler today. We're still above average for a lot of us, but it's cooler than where we have been. And this cooler air setting the stage for what will be snow when the system first moves in after midnight. 34 degrees in Worcester right now, 41 in Boston, Norwood 43, 40s across the Cape as well. So outside right now, still fairly cloudy. We'll work in some sunny breaks as we head throughout the afternoon. You notice a couple of sprinkles or snowflakes out there. This is not significant. What is significant is when we zoom the radar out and look at what's moving up the Mississippi River Valley and Ohio River Valley as well. All of this moisture streaming up to New England as we head throughout the next couple of days. And because it starts off as snow, it'll also bring a little bit of an ice threat with it as well. There could be and will likely be some slippery travel. So there is a winter weather advisory in effect for just about everybody outside of the coastal spots through at least the morning hours tomorrow. Snowfall amounts, not a blockbuster storm. North of Route 2, 1 to 3 inches and about an inch or less for everybody else. It's the threat of ice that's a bigger concern, and there's a lot of rain as well. We'll talk about all that and the timeline in your full forecast.
Thanks, Josh. You can track the incoming snow and rain for yourself using our interactive radar. It's available on our website, WHDH.com, and on any of our 7 News mobile and tablet apps.
The Red Sox making a big trade. Mookie Betts and David Price are heading to the Los Angeles Dodgers. The move expected to save the team a lot of money, but as you can imagine, fans are not on board with the decision. 7's Carrie Corrado is live at Fenway this afternoon with more. Carrie?
Not at all. They've used words like upset, disappointed, heartbroken. Now, keep in mind, a lot of talks and rumors swirled around Fenway Park about this situation, but apparently Mookie Betts is making that move out west with David Price.
No, I love Mookie.
Mookie Betts reportedly saying farewell to Fenway Park.
Well, I wish him well, but again, huge loss for Boston.
The Red Sox trading the All-Star MVP outfielder and their best player to the LA Dodgers, along with pitcher David Price. The blockbuster money move expected to save Boston the big bucks.
So far, you know, the home run, the grand slam.
Mookie is 27 years old and will soon be eligible for free agency after the 2020 season.
I was disappointed. He was a really good player. I'm sorry to see him go, and I hope the Red Sox can recover from it.
The Red Sox reportedly getting back 23-year-old Alex Verdugo from the Dodgers and 21-year-old Bruce Gratterall, the Twins' #3 prospect, as part of a 3-team deal.
Red Sox will push through, I think. They're a great team.
So you're not giving up on the Red Sox?
No, never, never, right? Boston fans through and through?
Yes. So spring training is right around the corner, and this team will head to Fort Myers without a manager, without Mookie, and without Price. We're live outside of Fenway Park. Carrie Corrado, 7 News.
Red Sox spring training begins next week with Red Sox pitchers and catchers reporting to sunny Fort Myers. 7's Trey Dare will be there for all the action, and you can watch his live reports from Fort Myers starting Sunday.
President Trump's impeachment trial is expected to end today. Senators will vote later this afternoon, and it comes after the president delivered his State of the Union address just last night.
A lot of tense moments before, during, and even after his speech. 7's Jonathan Hall is live for us in Washington, D.C. with all of the details. Jonathan, today a huge day.
It will be a big, big day late this afternoon, and last night was big as well. President Trump delivering this State of the Union address with an impeachment trial hanging over his head and with venomous partisan politics on display for all to see. So let's go inside the House chamber. It is, after all, Speaker Nancy Pelosi's house, and she actually ripped up the speech when the president finished it. Afterward, she called it a manifesto of mistruths. But there's blame to go around. When President Trump handed the speaker his speech at the very beginning, she reached for his hand and he snubbed her. No handshake. The two political foes haven't spoken in months. The president began his very long speech, which ran almost an hour and 20 minutes, by talking about an America that he says is on the rise.
3 years ago, we launched the Great American Comeback. Tonight, I stand before you to share the incredible results. Jobs are booming, incomes are soaring, poverty is plummeting, crime is falling, confidence is surging, and our country is thriving and highly respected again.
How about those awkward moments? Here's President Trump saying hello to the Chief Justice John Roberts, who will preside over his impeachment trial when the Republican-controlled Congress is expected to acquit him this afternoon on the 2 charges brought by the House: abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. The president stayed with prompter. He didn't go off script. He didn't start talking about a hoax or a sham. He did not mention the impeachment proceeding, but he did say this.
From the Pilgrims to the Founders, from the soldiers at Valley Forge to the marchers at Selma, and from President Lincoln to the Reverend Martin Luther King, Americans have always rejected limits on our children's future. Members of Congress, we must never forget that the only victories that matter in Washington are victories that deliver for the American people.
And the camera cut away the top House impeachment manager, Adam Schiff, who has argued passionately for the president's removal from office. There, another moment to remember. As always, there were guests invited by the president, including conservative talk show host Rush Limbaugh. He has stage 4 lung cancer. He was invited and seemed shocked and pleased when the president announced he would receive the nation's highest honor for a civilian, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The First Lady had it in hand and put it around his neck. Also, Amy Williams of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, got a great surprise. She not only attended the State of the Union with her children, she learned her husband, who had been serving in Afghanistan, came as well. Big surprise there. A special moment for Sergeant First Class Townsend Williams and his family as they got to hug one another. Nearly 100 of the people in the audience are United States senators who will be sitting thinking about President Trump's impeachment trial and then voting whether to find him guilty or not guilty at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Elizabeth Warren is coming off the campaign trail. She will vote to convict, as will Ed Markey, the other U.S. Senator from Massachusetts. The president, by the way, certain to be acquitted. It takes a 2/3 majority to get a president removed in an impeachment proceeding. And, of course, it's mostly Republicans in the U.S. Senate. Live on Capitol Hill, I'm Jonathan Hall, 7 News.
Jonathan, thank you. Again, senators will cast their final votes around 4 o'clock this afternoon. The Senate is expected to vote along party lines, as Jonathan was just saying, to acquit the president of obstruction of Congress and abuse of power. And when the vote happens, 7 News will bring it to you live.
The New Hampshire primary now just 6 days away. All the top candidates spread out across the state right now, and there are dozens of events throughout the day in New Hampshire, with Democrats making a big push to gain some momentum.
And it's a tight race with plenty of time left. One candidate getting a bit of a bounce out of Iowa as we track day-to-day changes ahead of the primary. Let's check on our exclusive 7 News Emerson College tracking poll. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is still in first place with a comfortable 32% lead. That number did not change from our last poll. Pete Buttigieg's hot streak continues. He's beginning to break away from the pack and establish himself as the second-place candidate. The former South Bend, Indiana mayor is at 17%. He's up 5 points. That's the biggest gain so far in our poll. Former Vice President Joe Biden is at 13%. That's unchanged. Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar has 11%. She's down 1 point. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren is also at 11%, and that's down 2 points. Now to the candidates in single digits. Entrepreneur Andrew Yang is at 6%. That's up 1 point. Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard is also at 6%. She's up 2 points. Businessman Tom Steyer is at 2%. He is down 3 points. Former Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick is now at 1%. He's up 1 point from 0. And Colorado Senator Michael Bennet remains at 0. Let's see how this all looks on a graph as we track the results from the last 3 polls. These are all the candidates in double digits, and you can see Bernie Sanders solidly solidly ahead right at the top. Then you can see the race for second, Pete Buttigieg climbing in the numbers. Then 3 candidates also in the teens. Joe Biden's steady, Amy Klobuchar rising somewhat, and Elizabeth Warren sliding somewhat. Today, former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg made a stop in Concord, New Hampshire. He reacted to that exclusive 7 News Emerson College tracking poll. 7's Nathalie Pozo was live in Concord, where she spoke to Buttigieg one-on-one. Nathalie?
Yeah, and Pete Buttigieg kicking off day 2 here in New Hampshire at a climate and clean energy town hall. Several candidates speaking at this town hall today. You could see some Trump supporters gathered outside of the venue here in Concord. Now, Pete Buttigieg, again, kicking things off here in Concord at this forum. We did have a chance to speak with him just to talk about the bump in our exclusive 7 News Emerson College tracking poll. Not a surprise for the former South Bend, Indiana mayor. He tells me that their campaign is reaching out to independents, moderates, and that they're even seeing some Republicans coming over to their side, not necessarily agreeing with all of his views, but realizing that they need to work together. He says that is what worked for them in Iowa. That is what delivered that success for them in Iowa, and he plans to continue delivering that message here in New Hampshire and definitely expects to gain even more momentum. Here's a little bit of our interview from just a short time ago.
We clearly are living in a very divided and polarized time. And while I feel very strongly about the values that make me a Democrat, this is also a moment when we've got to cut through that. Washington right now is dominated, especially as we look at the impeachment vote coming up on the Senate floor. We see how Washington is dominated by these kinds of divisions, and we can't go on like that.
I also asked the former South Bend, Indiana mayor if he felt that he was robbed of a victory moment in Iowa. He tells me that he certainly would have liked to have celebrated that success in Iowa, not afterwards, but says what his campaign has done, starting out from nothing to being a leader coming out of Iowa and then gaining momentum here in New Hampshire, is extraordinary. Again, we have several candidates that will be making their way through this climate and clean energy town hall today. As for Pete Buttigieg, that was his last event of today. He kicks things off again tomorrow with a conversation with veterans. That is the very latest here in Concord, New Hampshire. Nathalie Pozo, 7 News.
Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar also attending the Youth Climate and Clean Energy Town Hall in Concord. Senator Klobuchar is one of several Democrats stumping in New Hampshire today. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren appearing at an event in Nashua, New Hampshire. A live look as Senator Warren answers questions from voters. This is happening right now. She also spoke on health care and housing reform, and she discussed her plans for who she'll appoint as Secretary of Education.
My Secretary of Education will be someone who is taught in public school. Oh, in fact, I'll say another shocking thing. My Secretary of Education will be someone who believes in public education. And yes, I believe that public dollars should stay in public schools.
After this event, Senator Warren will head to the nation's capital for this afternoon's impeachment vote.
And Senator Bernie Sanders speaking at an event in Derry, New Hampshire right now. This is a live look as he talks to the crowd at the Derry Opera House ahead of today's Senate impeachment vote. He told supporters impeachment is about setting a precedent, not criticizing policy.
Which, by the way, is dry. So I'm going to be in Washington in a few hours. I will vote to impeach this president, who I believe is the most dangerous president in the history of this country, fought against. Now, God knows that democracy...
Senator Sanders also speaking on the economy, promising that his administration will tackle income inequality.
Former Vice President Joe Biden also in New Hampshire today. We're taking a live look at his event in Somersworth right now, and Biden is hoping to gain momentum on the campaign trail following a disappointing finish in the Iowa caucus. Biden currently stands at 4th place in Iowa with 71% of the results reported. The former vice president turning the page this afternoon, telling supporters he's proud of the support he has seen in New Hampshire.
I want to start by thanking 775,000 people who are members of the IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, for endorsing me this morning. We got about 75,000 right here in your state.
Biden is also scheduled to take part in a town hall at St. Anselm College in Manchester this evening.
And former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg making a campaign stop in Rhode Island. There was a bit of an awkward moment there. Take a listen.
Seriously, this is a campaign for change, for sanity, for honesty, for inclusion, for compassion, and for human decency. Okay. How come your name was next in the Black Book? Just answer the question. I have absolutely... Time out. Time out. Wait a second.
All right, so that was a heckler, then followed by boos there. Well, that heckler was asking Mayor Bloomberg about his alleged connections to disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. That man was escorted out of the rally. Tune in tonight and every night at 11 p.m. leading up to the primary. Our 7 News Emerson College tracking poll will show you how the race is changing. And we'll have live continuing coverage from New Hampshire all week long right here on 7 News.
We have breaking news in Concord, New Hampshire. Police responding to an apparent suicide at the Second Start Alternative High School. Officers say no one else was hurt in the incident, and officials say they are continuing to investigate what happened.
And we're following more breaking news, this time out of Mansfield. Police on the scene of a tractor-trailer rollover. This is on Forbes Boulevard. Emergency crews have called for a medical helicopter. The road will remain closed as crews continue to clear that accident. Coming up next here on the news station, inside one astronaut's return home after her historic time in space.
Also returning a little bit of snow to the forecast. We'll have the full timeline and when it changes back over to rain in your forecast.
And details on an emergency flight out of Wuhan, China to California. What's next for Americans on that plane? We'll tell you.